So aerodynamic, this thing.
It's like a big tuna.
This is a small
I would have done my apron around.
Excuse me, so you might hanging that lemon?
Does it matter if you hang it from the rear or the front legs?
Yeah, I think that if you hang it from the front, it disfigures the carcass a little bit.
Yeah, we were just noticing how that stretched the hammer.
Yeah, and that really, that's how it's typically done. And it makes us a little more intelligible. I think what it does is it pulls the pelvis back, angles it back. So it's as far out of the loin as possible. Whereas if this leg were down like this, the pelvis is kind of way up here in the loin. And since the loin's kind of the prime cut.
It's crazy how human the armpit looks.
I'll give him the what?
Armpit looks.
This is the smaller one. Wow, very close. This is like 69, 68. This goes on the little arm of the sink right behind you. There we go. This is the fatty. You can see this is the luxury of little pigs. You can actually lift it.
Yeah.
It's really nice. With bigger ones, you know, we could do this because it's all on the legs, you know, but then getting them onto the table is ideally a two-person affair.
You let it run and just die.
Yeah.
So half of a commercial pig, what would you be looking at on the scale?
Oh, so yeah, what they're shooting for is 110 per side.
Wow. Oh.
Yeah, that's what they're shooting for.
Within 6 months, you want them about 300 pounds. So.
Yeah, yeah, which is a 220 hanging weight, somewhere in there. That's the word on the, you know, supposedly that's when you get the most yield for the least input. But really for home pork raising, that is almost an irrelevant thing. You should slaughter your pig for a million different reasons before you slaughter it for those reasons. Like, you don't have any more money, so you can't afford any more pig feed. Great reason to kill the pig. I mean, truly. You know, you want to do it yourself, so you don't want them to be an 800-pound monster. You would like for it to be manageable. Slaughter the pig. You know, it's too muddy outside.
So how long
Slaughter the
does
pig.
it take how long does it take for your pig to be to a decent size?
It is completely dependent upon breed and what they're fed, but it's less than a year. So
6 to 9 months.
yeah.
Are your old spots still in the same place?
They
On that
have,
side of the driveway?
yeah, they're on that side of the driveway. Yeah, when you were here, there were probably a few spots, but still on that side. So I think I've moved them 3 times. They're in their 3rd space now, or 4th space.
And you'll do them in October.
Yeah, and I've got 2 more big spaces for them. 72. That's a big one.
How old will they be at that point in time?
These guys are born in February. March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October. Yeah, so that'll be 8 months.
No.
They're gonna be huge. Gosh. They're growing fast.
They're good looking pigs.
They do, which is an art. It's a negotiation. It is a truce that you have with pigs. Fencing to them is purely a psychological barrier. It's not an actual barrier. If they want to get out, they can, at any time. Fortunately, they're super cerebral, so if you speak the right language with them, they'll respect just 2 or 3 little hot wires with a little shock on it. And I've become very good at that out of necessity. You can't have pigs
We got a fire in there, and the guy had the whole thing of big heating posts, and he had a hot wire running around it, and they didn't respect any of it. They would just break through the hot wire and the fence, and it was on.
Yeah.
And then we moved to our house, we don't have any hot wire, and they're totally happy all day.
When I bought these two little boys a couple months ago, was the first time I treated my other ones like pigs because I had to put a hot wire to keep them from biting through the fence and chewing their nose off.
Yeah.
And it was like, and I hated doing that. I really did. I did not like it. But when I moved them up into the woods, which I'm trying to do, you know, I think the trick there is just to get them when they're born.
Exactly.
They're used to it because. So I kept asking my friend to run a hot wire.
Yeah, they've got to be trained on it.
And when she finally did run a hot wire, she just ran it straight across. And I'm 6'2", and she put it 6 foot. So it hit me right here and went off right there, and my jaw slammed shut.
Oh.
And so it's like now I have no hot wire around there because I don't want to ever have. I've spent 2 years with trigeminal which is this nerve firing. And let me tell you, you don't want to know what that feels like. Finally, you know, 2 years from just electrical shock.
Wow.
So that's why I respect those things because I don't want to spend 2 more years, you know.
Yeah.
Look at this.
So now you have 2 people per side. And Rosario, there is a
1, 3 per
cubby hole just underneath by your knees. You can go into there.
And this tub is for what?
That tub is for all your finished cuts from that side
okay.
right there. And it's small. It's a small pig, so it should fit.
Nice place.
And this one will be for this pig. And this one will be for this pig. Alright, so one thing we should notice right away
so
is the stiffness of the carcasses, right? They are stiff as wood. Everyone else remembers yesterday they were jiggly. And the reason that they stiffen is because this is good fat. This is saturated fat. Unsaturated fat is more liquid. You don't want to see, the fat can be so unsaturated that it can be clear, translucent sometimes. And the meat will turn gray just in the time it's taking you to butcher it. It's oxidizing so fast, which makes it a little bitter. This is really...
And that's because of diet, or what?
That is because, and genetics, but mostly diet. Yeah, it's because they are eating lots of unsaturated fats, as opposed to fats that they have to metabolize more to break down, which I think just means they turned it into saturated fat.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to understand the fat thing. So knife, oh here's a knife. We need one over here.
So what are these guys? So you're talking about like prepared feed, or you're talking about?
Yeah, so these guys were, it looked like they were slopped, which means like garden waste, kitchen waste, and occasionally grain.
Right.
Sometimes in the form of like a full spectrum hog mash with vitamins and minerals, 16 to 18% protein, usually coming from some soy or fish meal, and then other grains for energy, barley and corn. So what you get on a pig that is not eating exclusively a ton of soy and corn, which tends to be the main basis for growth rations, is with those pigs you get that translucent thinner fat, which particularly gets really bitter when you go to cure it and you hang it at room temperature, in oxygen, and in light, it becomes yellow and rancid, which is not spoiled, it's just,
Not very tasty.
it's not very tasty, yeah. It's not bacterial, like, rotting, it's just oxidized fat that doesn't taste very good. This is not that.
Can I ask you one other question?
Yeah, yeah.
So sometimes people advertise a pig as a red meat pig.
Oh, yeah.
Are these also considered a red meat pig?
Yeah, it's pretty dark
I mean,
meat.
it's pretty red.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I think that is as much a result of age as it would be of breed, you know. Definitely the lard pigs, the older, any active pig is going to be pretty red meat because the muscles that they use the most are going to be red. They have more hemoglobin in those muscles, more pigment. And pigs that are not moving a lot are not going to have very red meat.
So
And
the old commercials where they said pork the other white meat is because they were just like sitting on a farm.
right, yeah, and it's bland. They're selling blandness because that's what people want. It offends nobody and also pleases nobody.
When you have an 8x8 panel and
Yeah,
and the pig never.
and a whole bunch of pigs in there. Yeah, so it's also age too. You can gain so much flavor by just letting your pigs get a little older. Every pig, I don't care if it's a production Yorkshire pig or cool funky heritage pig. If it's fed right, at a certain age it will eventually be perfectly marbled, all red meat and really fat. All pigs want to go there. They all do. So even like a Yorkshire or a Berkshire, even after 10 months, definitely after a year, they'll just be marbled and perfect. They'll be huge, but they'll be perfect.
In your opinion, do you think there's a point where you can let
It was huge.
chew on?
I don't know. I haven't encountered it
as I
yet.
am.
I've definitely seen that in lamb. Like I've had people have become put animals out of their misery because they were pets for 15 years, like a 15-year-old ewe. That's gross. They're already like partly dead. Natural death is so not natural. It's disgusting. I haven't seen a pig that old yet, so I don't know.
Right.
They tend to just get fatter and fatter and fatter. And eventually it just becomes weight management. You can't feed them too much or they'll just incapacitate themselves. They won't be able to get up.
Have you ever seen a wild pig?
Mm-hmm.
Are they good for this?
Yeah, it's the roll of the dice. You could shoot a male that has boar taint and he's really funky and smells very intensely to the point where you don't want to eat it.
Boar taint would be some kind of like a
Hormonal, yeah. And not every male has it, but a lot do. They're usually skinned because they're hunted. It's just practicality. You're out in the field, you skin it, and they're usually very lean, and they're delicious. Yeah, I think boar is wonderful. Wow. All right, so before we get into what I think butchery is all about, even though I kind of already said that, I'm gonna try not to say it again too many times. We're gonna take the leaf fat off. This is the internal body fat, and it's gonna be really hard because these are really solid pigs, which is great. This fat is very solid, and it is this sheet right here. That whole thing is gonna come off, and I generally start it right here. So you can see how we have silver skin down on top of the meat. That means we're in the right seam. So just by working this and pushing down, pulling up, we're gonna try to get this whole sheet out of there.
That's
the inside bit.
Yeah, that's the seam right there. That's
There we
great.
go.
Yeah, so see how you've got the nice silver skin on the meat there? That's perfect. That means you're in the right seam. Now it's just a lot of pushing and pulling.
You guys come. And this is the pork belly, the part in the bottom?
This is, we're taking the leaf fat off of the pork belly. Yeah, there's that seam. Yeah, you got it. Okay. So we'll have to pushing this down, pulling out.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is soft.
Didn't realize how hard we had to push till he pushed.
That's right.
No, that's it. We were being all delicate.
How far does that go up to?
All the way to there, I think.
Holy smokes.
This is the good stuff. We were talking about using this as a baking oil.
Yeah.
This is shortening, the original shortening.
Ah.
Beautiful stuff.
You want to get in on this guy?
That's all right.
I'll let you do this part.
Yeah,
It's done.
yeah. It's all right if it comes off and shows.
No, I'm fascinated
Yeah,
with it.
that is
okay?
shortening. Yeah, that's what makes truly flaky pie crust. And
So
makes the
then-
best layered
Delicious
croissant.
biscuits.
But look at
Yeah,
this.
I mean it's the best ever.
Amazing.
Does it need rendering
Where's
or
this
do you
stuff
just
going?
It does.
Going
It
in?
needs rendering. Why don't we put it all in here?
Okay. Are you done with the, no, probably not with your dog bowl?
Right. And we are going to render it, which is just to say we're going to run it through the grinder and then melt it in a big pot. And that will turn it all into lard. Then we're going to strain it. And in that state, it keeps indefinitely. It never goes bad. You can keep it at room temperature right next to your stove. And anytime you are tempted to use vegetable oil of any kind, other than olive oil, you know, canola oil, just forget it. Use the lard.
Yeah.
It's great for frying. You know, it's
Can
got
you
a
do
high
fries
flash
in it,
point.
or does that be a bit intense?
Can you do what?
Fries in it?
Play-Doh.
Yes. Oh no, it's excellent. Yeah, deep frying fries in it is so good. Even donuts.
Oh, really?
Yes, sir.
I think-
Yeah. Before we do
I know.
that, here, let's cut it into strips. So I have the hopper on my grinder is this big, so we need it to be in strips. You know, no wider than that. And we'll do that with all of them. We'll cut it into strips no wider than this, and we're just gonna run it through my grinder. And any little meat bits, you can just throw in the tub that corresponds with your side.
I can't see it, but it feels
It's on this
right.
way.
Another fat that is super animal fats are the best. You know, we do lamb, and sometimes they're so fat that it's worthwhile to harvest their lean fat, which is called suet.
Yeah.
And Lauren makes
For
all
birds
of
and
her,
stuff?
yeah,
Yeah, my wife, uses that
she
for
makes all
birds.
of
Yeah.
our laundry detergent and our makes bars of soap out of it. Beef tallow is the rendered form of beef suet. It's
Right.
this fat rendered, and that is extremely special. That's the best for donuts. McDonald's used to deep fry their French fries in tallow. That's why they were good.
Right.
And you want this fat in the black tops or?
Oh, we're gonna, yeah, cut it into strips,
This is
and then I'll take it.
Like that big?
Yeah. Yeah, they just can't be wider than this.
Sorry.
I'm Chris Thompson.
Oh, hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, all the back fat or the leaf fat can go right in here, those strips. And we're gonna grind it.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, what a great idea. There we go.
Woo! My hobby.
Do you say put everything in that tub?
Yeah.
Yeah, all the leaf fat in that tub.
I think we need to go because it's too wide.
I understand what you rub your table with.
Yeah. That's right. Never gets done.
So you freeze this?
No.
Okay.
So,
No, I
All
can't
right.
stand that. No, that's a great topic. We'll talk all about that.
yeah, so if you were doing this without the pig being in the cooler, would it
Yeah.
be much more difficult? Or
Not really. Yeah, the pig would be floppy, you know.
right?
I would try, I've done this in Yakima in the middle of the summer when it's really hot. And we hung the pig overnight in an area where it never got cooler than 60 degrees. But the
This is like
humidity, there
Play-Doh.
was
This
like
is-
no
It's like
ambient
being
moisture. It's
Play-Doh.
like 17%
That's
humidity, super dry.
There
And so almost as important, if not more important than temperature,
It's
is
gonna be
dryness.
busy.
Yeah.
So if you,
Just
you
put it
know,
in
if you're
the freezer
hanging a
then.
pig
Ah, wow.
and it's warm, but
Which
it's
will be
super
full
dry.
when
It
you get
will
home.
be full.
So
It's
what
gonna
would
be
you
a-
recommend?
That's
You know,
the
if you were
one
to do this at home, you don't have
Yeah.
you know, a
So
facility
number one,
to hang it in.
do it in the
Stuff
winter.
in them.
Okay.
That's like,
Yeah.
take care of all,
Sure.
you save so much headache. Not just like, wow, I don't
Use
have
the
to
right
process the
side.
whole pig today.
Right.
I can take a couple days and we're gonna be totally fine. Just hang it in the barn or in the garage, you know, where it's cold. Also, when you're starting the cures, and if you're doing it naturally and you don't have a humidor and temperature humidity controlled environment, you have nature's humidor, which is just the outdoors. And so you don't have to worry about flies with your new cures being freshly hung. You don't have to worry about rancidity of fat. It's just,
Wow.
Should you just hang
Do
it
it
in
in
the
the
garage
winter,
too?
yeah,
It's the
do it in the
Just
winter.
make sure you don't have any chemicals around.
That's right, no chemicals. Or, you know, if you're hanging the pig from a tree during slaughter, which is very common from a chain hoist, just
Because it
hoist
doesn't
it up
fit
as far as you can at the end of slaughter day and go to bed. Come out the next day, bring him down and start processing.
Do you want this in the black top?
No, we'll keep
Separate
that in there.
ones.
Yeah, we'll keep it separate. Yeah. Yeah.
This is
That looks
just
good. So this
fascinating.
stuff.
And
Oh, yeah,
are we
that's all
taking
good.
the silver skin off or leaving
No,
it?
that can stay on. Silver skin scan. If there's just any meaty bits, we'll try to keep those. All right, 2 pigs. Look at all that lard. That is gorgeous.
That is.
Yeah, like
Blood's okay. Yeah, that will kind of come out during the rendering.
So So then all the fat like separates from all the liquid and the
I don't
meat
know why.
and everything. And that when you cool it, you can just separate everything.
Yeah.
That's so weird over here.
Yes.
Play-Doh or
And then
something.
you just
Right.
put
If the gel is the one, you know, I don't even take it off. Like with the leaf pad, I'll pour the render, I'll strain it to get the creasiness out of it. And as I pour it in the containers, I pour it in my clear ones. And the last one always has the gel at the bottom. You know, all that. So I just use that for it, because you know it's gonna smell.
He mentions
and then the rest you can just
fish
put
meal.
it on the pantry or
Yeah, well, you know, in the fridge if you want.
Was
I'll
I
store it, but
dinners
Yeah.
from a local place up there.
yeah, pantry, which is a great way to have the lids.
Get local, you know, stuff. They put it
Alright,
on
this
the
looks
bottom,
beautiful.
and then we buy it, you know. So it's kind of a good thing.
You mentioned
But I
incapacitation.
tasted
I was
it in a
reading
hot
the
shop.
Guinness
I
Book of
tasted
World
cinnamon
Records to my
because
kids
I
the
don't
other
like
day.
it.
Oh, yeah.
They talked about the heaviest
You know,
pig
it's
they'd
not
ever
all
because
that
it's
can
like
Man,
weighed.
Yeah.
And it was a pig that
They
were taking to the World's Fair in 1933 in
Yeah.
Chicago. And I don't remember the exact weight, but it was like something like 10,000 pounds.
Yeah, oh
And it
yeah.
broke his leg on its way to the fair, so I've never made it to the fair.
Oh, bummer, dude.
tasted that one.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Too big for their own good. Alright, so we got the leaf pad out,
Growing
right?
up and this was always there, I don't think you.
I think so.
There's two more things we're gonna do before we actually quarter these halves, which is really the key that unlocks the whole rationale to butchery. Because this is a tapestry, and it only makes sense as part of the weave. If you understand the whole rationale, then it's like, oh, pork cookery, pork butchery, and curing, it all informs itself, and it makes sense. So we have these little flappy guys right here. These are the skirt steaks. That's what that is. So you can see how on the top of it is this clear membrane, the silver skin. So if you hold that flap up, you can just cut that clear bit off. And then you can go and cut the meat bit off, you know, right down to where it connects to the ribs. And it's just little shreds, you know, there's really not a lot there. But you can take it.
Move down this way. so it's
No,
nice.
other way, towards the
Oh, is
head.
it towards there?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine.
Oh, yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Yeah, but you would.
Yeah.
That way.
Yeah.
I thought it was for collecting the little bits too.
I think that's for the little bits that we're gonna put in the sausage. This is for little bits for the dog, which are usually, we might not even generate anymore, but when we clean up this area, where there's lots of blood, I think we'll put some of that in there. And honestly, it's not because this is like bad for us or pathogenic or gonna hurt us somehow. It's just a little unappetizing. That's really all it is, yeah. But you can eat it, it's totally fine. That's what bolognese is, or rillettes. There's all, you give it a French or Italian name, it immediately sounds official, but really, they're just ways to deal with all the little scraps.
Pieces.
That's all, yeah, it's the pieces. And we'll talk about rillettes too when we talk about preservation.
I would have that blood
cutting
on
some
the
meat.
end of my rabbit.
Yeah, why do we
People,
stuff it
you know,
out?
Yeah.
As long as they see it when it's cooked, they don't.
Within
There's
2
nothing there.
inches
Yeah.
it is, so.
Before it's cooked, it's frozen. That-
Oh, there's this beautiful recipe. I've never had it, they might have. It's called jugged
You should
hare.
have took that picture.
And it's like this classic, very classic French cookery, but it is all about
It's
the
got a
blood
knife.
of the hare. Have you ever had jugged hare?
I don't think I have actually.
I don't think
Okay.
I have either.
It's amazing. I haven't
Awesome.
either, but it sounds so incredible. But they make a sauce with the blood.
I don't think it matters.
And it is so
Yeah, I guess
unctuous,
it could've gone
and
there.
it's totally black. The sauce is like the color of dark chocolate. And they torch the head. So you skin the rabbit, but you leave the skin on the head and the ears, and you leave it all attached, and you just torch it. Kind of like we did yesterday, and you end up torching all the hair off, and then they roast it, and then they pour this rabbit, the hare's blood, made into a sauce over the rabbit, and it looks completely black with its white little eyes, and they like prop it up on, you know,
They're just
little
cutting
vegetables.
it.
So because it's a hare, it's hunted. That's why it has all the blood in the cavity. That's why they can salvage it. You know, it was just blasted or something, and so it's totally bloody. But you can dump all that blood out of the cavity and then make your sauce.
Do you
So
know what's
cool.
in the sauce besides the blood?
What else would they put in there? I assume like some demi-glace, some reduced stock, you know, so that it has that unctuous, so that it is like, you pour it on layers. It's like, what is that
Can you
called? It's
hear
like
that?
glazing. You know, you pour on one layer, wait a second,
Oh.
pour on the other layer. It's waxing, you're waxing it.
But I wonder what they mix the blood with, because once you cook the blood, it kind of like solidifies a
It
little
can
bit.
coagulate, yeah.
So I wonder if they mix it with lots of fat first.
I don't know. I think if you heat it slowly enough and keep it moving. I haven't done it yet.
Acidic fruit, I guess.
Yeah, add some acid. Yeah. Maybe a little bit of vinegar. Yeah.
Watch it. Food
Well,
fight.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
We gotta figure it out. We gotta figure it out. All right, so now we can start quartering. This to me is really what makes butchery make sense. When I think of breaking down a pig, I'm thinking not about where to cut and where not to cut. That's not what it's about. But I'm thinking about how I'm gonna cook this. And for me, that means braising, pan frying, or roasting. Braising, pan frying, and roasting. Braising in a big pot, heavy lid, lots of liquid, low and slow. That's braising. Pan frying, hot and fast, and some oil. Roasting can be hot and fast or low and slow. It's just dry heat in the oven. And that can be low temp or high temp, low or fast. Those are the only 3 recipes I know. Braising, pan frying, and roasting. That's it. There's all you need to know about meat cookery. If you know how to braise, pan fry, and roast, nothing on this carcass is off limits to you. Nothing. You can cook the trotters, the head, and the chops. It's all going to be braised, pan fried, and roast. So for me, butchery is, how do I turn this into something that I can braise, pan fry, and roast? You have to work with the physiology of the pig, because what kind of cuts are you going to braise? Are they going to be tough or tender? They're usually tough cuts. And then pan frying is obviously, that only works with really tender stuff. Roasting, you know, it depends on, that's more of fat or lean, because it's dry heat. So when I look at this pig, you can deduce what is tough and tender. You can deduce also what is fat or lean. Fat and lean is easy. You just look at it and see how much white there is. And lean is definitely not going to be an issue with this pig. Tough and tender is, you just deduce that by the way a quadruped functions every day, how it walks and how it moves. So you look at this whole area up front. This is all supporting the weight of the head as the pig roots. It's articulating this front leg. It's used every day. So everything here is tough, right? Same with the back leg. Supporting weight, moving, that is all tough. And then we have this flat region in the middle. And you think of, you know, that, definitely not from these pigs, but an extreme example would be the cheetah. You know, when it's running, that is stretching, constantly expanding and contracting on a quadruped. And it's also expanding and contracting with every breath. So it has lots of fat and lots of connective tissue to be stretchy, which makes it tough. So all of this is tough. And then you have this little bridge, this little tubular muscle just above the spine. This is never used by a quadruped. It's just a bridge, you know, unless they're pulling themselves erect, because some pigs are more equal than other pigs. That's the only time that muscle will be used. This is why on bears, you know, they can stand erect. Bear chops are going to have some bite. They're going to be tough. Not on quadrupeds. So this is tender. Everything else is tough on the whole carcass. So from my brain, that's it. That's all I know about butchery. So if all you do is quarter everything, if you remove this tough and fatty business from this tough and fatty business, from this tough and leaner business, from the tender and lean up here, then you know, well, I can pan fry and roast this hot and fast. I can braise or roast this low and slow. And I can roast this low and slow, or braise it, or preferably cure it into bacon. And this I can roast hot and fast, because it's got, once we cut into it, you'll see it's a little leaner. If you roast it low and slow, it'll dry out. That's the whole rationale for all of meat cookery and all of meat butchery. So how do we separate those parts from each other? There's a few cues that we'll follow, and again, these work on every single quadruped, because they all have sternums and they all have pelvic bones and spines. So for the front, we're going to take this quarter off, which by the way is called the shoulder. Believe it or not. The shoulder quarter. This is the loin for some reason. I don't know why. Along the back it's the loin. This is the belly. This is the leg. To take off the shoulder, you find the sternum, and we're going to go to the tip of the sternum. You might have a little flap of a xiphoid process poking off there. And at the tip of the sternum, that's going to send you, line your knife up in between 2 ribs, which is going to line you up in a vertebra. So this would be your line here, something like this, which will line you up with that vertebrae. So your line will look something like that. And the pattern is to use long drawing strokes straight down to the cutting board until you can kind of open up that crack, and then with your knife upside down, you can bring the tip of the knife in there and then just pull up. And we won't have to use the saw. We'll just lift it and it'll pop off.
Okay.
So for you, I would go in this one right here. And that, that'll line you up with that disc and straight out.
Yeah, I think he said
Long
you should
drawing
say
strokes right down to the cutting
And
board.
same at the top?
I think so. Okay, so.
Yeah, go all the way down to the cutting board first on the flat
So how
part.
much should this?
This one?
Yeah, Alex. I would do this one right here.
So this one right here?
Yeah, long drawing strokes all the way down to the cutting board. You'll probably cut through the cartilaginous tips of the ribs. You'll feel a little resistance there, but you'll go right through it. All the way down to the cutting board.
We can open it up.
And this works on beef, on lamb. It's all the same mark.
And you can come around here and put the tip. See your tip in
Nice. And these long drawing strokes are perfect. They really create a clean cut. One thing you can tell if your knife is getting dull if you find yourself doing a lot of this, or a lot of sawing. And it doesn't make as clean cuts. Beauty. You might be able to pop that right off now.
So, hey Brandon. So are we trying to cut through the top, or are we snapping this?
Yeah, we'll end up snapping it. So once you go, you
What
probably
is
go a little
spinal
further
cord?
there, down the bottom. Spinal cord, Bard would appreciate that, yeah.
Would you want?
And then it's a little trickier. You see, when we were splitting yesterday, there are these spinal processes right here. Each vertebra has one. And they're just 1/8 of an inch thick. So the game that you can play with yourself when you split a pig is you want to see these on both sides, which means you're splitting
Like that.
dead nut center, right center. So you have kind of thick ones. You can see over here, they don't have any right here. So that's why theirs was a little easier. But you have thicker ones in the way. So you might have to come in with the saw, line up with your cut and just do a little sawing. And as soon as you feel you're through the bone, pull up with the saw. And then you can just continue straight down with the knife.
Sorry. There we go. Just take our knife from my pocket.
And then, Jim, you might have to use this little guy because you have some thick
I kind of got off on
spine.
it.
It's all right. The bones are in your way there. Isn't that nice? Look at all that fat. Yes, sir.
That was it.
Right?
This in my hands.
Yeah. So now we're starting to look familiar here.
So that's
Amazing.
we have in England we have two different types of bacon. One that stops there,
Yeah.
and then the really good stuff goes all the way. You get like bacon from long tail.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, that's a fun way to go. I think I've done it that way too. And it has to do with the order of quartering. Like if we left this on, but we took the back leg off first, and then they do one big cut like this.
Oh, right.
Just like that. And it makes a lot of sense. It's really efficient, You've already separated the shoulder. You get a longer piece of bacon here. It's a neat way to go.
We're talking bacon.
That looks lovely, right? So that should look
We
familiar.
got
We
bacon.
have pork chop, bacon. All right, so that's the shoulder quarter. Now we're gonna take off the leg, and our marker for this one is gonna be the spine. So if you follow the spine, you can see on all of them it takes a crook. There's a crook in the spine right there, and all quadrupeds have it. If you go from that crook, one vertebra in the direction of the head to the next disc, that's going to be the marker. And you can actually, because in between the vertebrae are these cartilaginous discs, you can cut halfway with the spine. Now your knife is just resting on this little pinky bone that's holding this vertebra to that, so you can't go all the way through. And then we will, you can see if our mark is there though, that the belly, our bacon town, comes back past it a little bit. So I like to take this little triangular flap and follow the contour of the leg. See what I mean? And just kind of pull it forward. You can take it a little more until it's lined up with this.
Right here.
So about like
okay. So
and
cut
then
this
once
down
that's
to
folded over,
where you were making
then you
the
just do the
mark.
exact same thing. Knife down to the
Okay.
forward.
So making the
back.
mark and then cut this flap to that
Yeah,
mark.
we're good.
So
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
one knuckle.
And yeah,
Yeah.
just take it back to about there.
Is it in between?
Yeah, it's in a disc.
Yeah, in between the
In between the vertebrae.
yeah, not entirely.
Yeah, so right there.
Right there.
That's it. Yeah.
Oh, that might be a little
So your
bit.
knife will actually go
What?
there.
Oh, I said that might still be a little bit in your way.
Now this little flap.
All the way.
Yeah, and we'll just kind of, you start cutting here and you pull it back until it's lined up with that. Nice, yeah, that's it right there.
Are we going through the top now? Heating it up?
Yes.
Can we talk about that right away?
Nice.
Okay.
Very cool.
You just leave it?
And then, no, and then we'll go through like I did the front.
And then so this right here, this bit,
Put a
Brandon.
little bit of fat on there. Yeah, you might be hitting the tip of the. Oh yeah, no, you're good. You're past it. Yeah, see if you can. You might be able to scoot it this way. Get the knife. Oh yeah, just take that all the way down to the cutting board there.
Yes, that's
There we go. There you go. Then you can even come back here and get the knife. You'll see the tip of it. You cut. Opened up, and that makes a really smooth
yes, like lots of it.
separation. You know, that keeps the knife on the same plane the whole
Right.
time. Yeah.
Nice. Oh, that's awesome.
That's cool, huh?
Yeah, great job.
You can take off these little rib tips here. There's just a few of them. You'll be able to feel them. Those can all come out. And then the same deal here. Just
What about those if you have
hug those ribs, man.
yeah, it's still going to do
Hug them all the way up. Follow the line of the ribs as it curves way up into the spine. And straight out under those feather bones.
And on these, how deep do you just
I go like this. Yeah.
and then do you come like out?
Yes. Yeah. You'll just come out. Yeah. And there's little the cartilaginous tips are in there too. It's nice to get those. even though they're kind of,
what are they?
you can feel right there. You feel that?
Oh, yeah.
That's just the bones, the ribs connect to those, and so you know you might be able to just to remove it right there, coming out with the knife.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I usually get it started on the back like this. I'm raking my fingers, and it's opening that seam, and then I go all the way across the top. And this fat's pretty mushy, so it's gonna be a little trickier. There we go. So that's the seam. And so this fat, this is technically the fat bag. This is not. This fat is much softer. It's so soft that I could just push my finger right through it right into the chop. Whereas this fat is chopped by a meat grinder. It's not just mushed because it has enough structure. That's why it's essential to all sausage in the universe. It makes the texture perfect because it's just chopped by the grinder, which is really nice. Instead of mushed and pasted, it's not turned into a paste. That's back fat. The pig is the only animal that has this.
So that would be the same fat that would go into like a salami as well as
Exactly. That's the perfect example of it. When you slice a nice salami, you see
he's like
distinct
all the way
white
down, right?
chunks.
Well, I just
Back
don't know
fat.
if
Well,
it
yeah,
was
I
supposed to
think
like
So,
Yeah.
the way I usually approach
You get
this,
to end
once
up
I've
with-
got it started, I can
You're
kind of
rocking.
pinch my thumb,
It's
Yeah,
going,
becoming
isn't
and
it?
then
Yeah.
push down like that, and
It's
you'll
kind
just
of
keep peeling,
Funny.
and that whole thing
Ribs.
will come off. Nice.
So,
Brandon, I got a question.
so I'm supposed to like continue doing this, and once I get to this point, then I just
Yeah.
cut this.
Yeah, I would work all from this end. So
piece of the chop. And
this
the
is
whole
one.
tail.
There's really no great method for boning out meat, but
Beyond aging motivation.
the closest I come
Yeah.
to a method. Oh, there's one more rib in there. Is working from the
The
same
bacon's the
plane
first-
all the way back.
First to disappear, you know.
You know. So I would just keep doing this,
One ham from.
all from
my last
coming from
one.
this angle,
Okay,
and then eventually it'll be basically flat out.
I'm gonna get all the bones out.
Yes, those will all come approaching it from this
I got
side.
some pork chops.
My question is pretty much the same. We'll start
Yeah.
ending about here.
Yeah, and just keep going, you know,
Yeah.
goes, and the knife will come out here. So all this meat will stay on the belly.
Like cured
Yeah.
hams, or how would you do
Yeah, just like
Not
that.
the hot
Roll it out.
Okay.
The ham is,
Yeah.
the pork shoulder is cured, and so it's like, it's actually like cooked. You just gotta
There it
cook
is.
Right,
Yep.
the other one
Ripping
is
it
the
works.
hocks or no, smoked or,
No, that's awesome.
and then they shred like pulled pork.
Well,
That's
we
the
should
difference
have
too,
one
is the ham doesn't.
Okay.
Chicharrone's that thick though?
Here's our beautiful pot of lard. I don't know if you noticed this, but the lard has been ground. That's
Wow.
why it's in little wormies. And it's just melting on the stove. That's all rendering is. We don't want to cook it, we just want to melt it. If you cook it too much, it starts to get golden or brown, then it will be savory. It'll still be useful, but you'll taste it. It'll be like, wow, there's pork in that pie. Even though it's just apples. So, especially with leaf fat, it's nice to
And
just
you
don't
don't-
overdo it.
And you don't add any water like you do with beef tallow?
No, I just do it on a low enough temperature to not scald the bottom, not scald the fat.
Which one did you cut the ribs off of?
Okay, so now here I would take your knife. There's little vertical parts of the T-bone are in here now. So I just hug those like that,
Yeah.
like that, and then with this kind of as your handle,
I was supposed to
you
take
can
this?
kind of just keep rolling it
Oh,
back like this. And the more you pull on it, the easier it will come.
Just so you can get
Yeah,
the
just
entire
kind of like
bacon
that.
in one strip.
Yeah.
Nicely done.
Yeah, this is a gesture of generosity right here. Anytime you see this much fat on a boneless piece of meat, it's a symbol of magnanimity. So I think that the best way to do this is to get these little, this is the T of the
Right.
T-bone. And once I get those free, because they're just holding on to the meat, you can kind of start rolling everything out.
Oh,
So do you just break it?
That's
That's all bacon. All bacon.
And that's why they call it a side of bacon.
That's right, yeah. Or a flitch. Let's see. At least that's what they said in 1821. My 1821 guide. Is a flitch of bacon. Yeah.
So we put this in the.
Yeah, that can go in your tub. Yeah.
That's not too bad. This is like somewhat kind of difficult to follow.
It's kind of technically that's the flank.
Flank, here we learn.
So like,
Right.
actually, I think in England they call it the skirt.
Yes.
Think about it.
Because
Yeah.
then you get
it's-
skirts of the, yeah.
Yeah.
It said with beef, I think.
It's all,
Yeah.
yeah, when we
Size
buy
of
skirt
bacon.
beef, it's always the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Is that what you make if it was beef covers?
exactly. So it would be wonderful. We could just. It's very easy to take this whole triangular muscle off. Because this really is just fat here.
Yeah.
So that is an option. The trick, it's always a dilemma for me because what do we do with this fat? It doesn't render very well. It's not like beef fat, so there's actually not a lot of lard to be had from it. It's just a lot of connective tissue and fascia.
Right.
And it doesn't make a good like cut, on its own. You wouldn't just roast it.
Right.
And so for me, when in doubt, leave it on bacon. So we'll just leave it like this. And because when it's salted and likely smoked, like it's just gonna be awesome. It's just how that works.
So that goes before bacon too?
Yeah.